Hey everybody, I'm Bede, aka the Terrible Australian of Super Podcast, and welcome to the 8th edition of my 2014 MIFF video reviews. For this one, I will be talking about the New Zealand horror comedy Housebound, and as well as the darkly comedic indie found footage horror film Creep. So let's get right into it. Now, first up is Housebound. I got my MIFF guide here, so I can read you guys the synopsis for these films. In a magnetic star-making performance, Morgana O'Reilly plays Kylie, a petty thief who returns to her childhood home when the court places her under house arrest. Her mother insists that the house is haunted, but Kylie doesn't have a bar of it until strange whispers and bumps in the night have her convinced she's inherited her mother's overactive imagination. With an ankle monitor to keep her in one spot, Kylie ain't gonna escape this paranormal activity. This one was sort of a late entry onto my list. I sort of didn't give it much thought until I actually read the synopsis and as well as sort of read a couple of reviews online. I thought, I'll give it a check out. And I love horror films, and I like horror comedies, so I thought I should give this a check out. And I have to say, this movie was awesome. I loved it. And what I like about this film is that it's a film that sort of skewers sort of the cliches of the horror film genre, but at the same time, it also becomes an entry within that genre as well. And it's just pitch perfect in both. It's very effectively creepy, and also it's very funny as well. I got a lot of laughs from this film, and this film actually has, in my opinion, one of the funniest moments I've seen in a film all year. And I'm not going to say what it is because it's a major spoiler, but when you see the film, you'll know exactly which moment I'm talking about. It happens in the third act of the film, but so that'll at least give you an idea of what it might be when you see it. But also, the film's writer-director, his name, Jared Johnstone. This is his writing and directing debut, and I think he does a fantastic job. And he sort of manages to sort of make the film both. It's a very hard combination, the horror comedy, because you have to make a film that's both equally scary and equally funny as well. And very few films are able to do that correctly, but he does it perfectly. Like, it's a pitch perfect horror comedy, and it has some great performances. Morgana O'Reilly, who plays the lead, she does a really great job as well, and I mean she gives a really great performance. And I bet when this film gets a bit more of a wider release and all that, like in other countries around the world, she's definitely going to become a bit of a name, because that's how good of a performance she is. And also the supporting cast are also great. The actress who plays the mum, who I can't think of her name at the moment, she does a wonderful job. But all the cast are great. They all give really good performances. It's very well written. You're not exactly sure where the story is going to go, and it often surprises you multiple times during the film. Just very well directed, great score. Some really creepy moments, and it's just great. It's a lot of fun as well. And actually, the film that reminded me the most while I was watching it was actually Tucker and Dale versus Evil. Not that they're sort of the exact same film, but they're sort of both films that sort of skewer the type of subgenre of horror that they sort of make fun of, while at the same time become an entry within those genres. In those genres. But it's just a great film, and a very big surprise, and I just thought it was pretty awesome. If I had to rate this film, it's definitely a 4.5 out of 5. Definitely check it out when it hits cinemas. I guarantee you're going to have a ball with it. Now, on to the next film, which is Creep. Now, Creep is it's one of those films that, before I read the synopsis, is one of those films that it's probably best not to know too much about it. I mean, I'm going to read the synopsis anyway, so if you don't want to know what it's about, sort of skip over this part for a few seconds. But I reckon it's a film that's best going in blind. Don't read anything about it, don't read any reviews, synopsises, or anything like that. I've warned you, so take that into consideration. But I'm going to read the synopsis anyway because I'm doing these for these reviews. So this is what the film Creep is about. Debut director Patrick Bryce steps in front of the camera alongside Mark Duplass, co-producing with Insidious, Sinister, and Paranormal Activity's Jason Blum, for this intense and chilling interplay between two protagonists that comes full of twisted surprises. Spoilers could easily blunt the film's edge, so all audiences need to know that a video photographer, desperate for work, responds to a cryptic ad, $1,000 for the day, filming service, discretion is appreciated, placed by an equally cryptic man who wants to record his dying days for an unborn child. The whole thing plays out like a found footage horror I'm sorry if I got that wrong, as seen through the videographer's lens. It's kind of interesting that Mark Duplass has been in two films I saw at the film festival this year. I would say of films that are best not to know too much about them. And that the other one, of course, was the one I loved, which is sort of this sort of a romantic comedy drama. This film is definitely it's a horror comedy as well, but it's definitely and like Housebound, it does a great job of sort of balancing the tone between horror and comedy. And I have to say, this movie, as a horror film, is actually surprisingly creepy. And I was actually very unsettled a few times during the film, particularly in the second half of the film. But it's also very funny as well, and it's an interesting sort of dynamic between, because both Mark Duplass and Patrick Bryce both give great performances in the film, particularly Mark Duplass, who has the more sort of difficult role between the two, and their sort of interchange between each other is very well done, and also the film sort of, you're not exactly sure where the story is going to go, and it just surprises you occasionally, and it's very well written, pretty well directed as well, and it's just a surprisingly good horror film, and it's also pretty hilarious as well. It was funny watching this with an audience, because at one the audience will be like laughing hysterically, and then all of a sudden they'll be like, "Oh!" and all that. But overall, this one was a pleasant surprise as well, and it's definitely one of the a horror film that does the sort of the found footage aspect really good, and it actually works incredibly well for this film. And I'm a big fan of found footage horror films, so this was definitely right up my alley. But this is definitely one of the stronger recent entries in the sort of subgenre. But yeah, I definitely highly recommend everyone to check this out. So I think it's one that I think a lot of you would definitely dig. If I do rate this film, it'd definitely be 4 out of 5. It's really, really good. Yep, that's the end of this 8th edition of my 2014 MIFF video reviews. Keep a lookout very soon for my 9th edition, in which I'll be talking about the remake of the Ozploitation classic Turkey Shoot and Sion Sono's action film, Why Don't You Play in Hell. So keep a lookout for that one, and I'll see you guys later. See you, everyone. Bye.